Good morning. I'm saying good morning again. I was probably talking for about 20 minutes and I realized that I did not hit the start button. Oh boy. Um, Sorry it's been so long since I've had something to put up as far as a video or audio. Life has been crazy recently. Some good, some bad. But you take it all in and do the best that you can. Hold on to God and hope that you know you can get through it without being completely um, torn apart. And if you are, God's there still. Um, it's an overcast day here. We had quite a bit of rain in the last couple days. I think most of it's over, but who knows? It is September 14th, 2022, and it is the 20th anniversary of me entering the Orthodox Church by baptism, and so I figured it would be a good time just to talk a little bit about that. 20 years is a long time, but it isn't as well, which is hard to imagine. So I talked a little bit about becoming Orthodox before. I come from a Protestant background, but never actually belonging to a church. And I was looking for a church and fairly lackadaisically for quite a while. But I went and visited an Orthodox church in 2001, and I think it was April of 2001, and it felt like coming home. And there's nothing else I can compare it to. And from that moment, it felt like I needed to be Orthodox, and as far as everything else, it was just details on how to get there. 9/11 happened a couple months later, and it really set my mind on living abroad. It was something that I wanted to do for a long time anyway, but there was kind of a confluence of events, not just September 11th, but an offer for help and everything, that it seemed like this was the time to go. I was 22 years old, and yeah, there was nothing holding me down. I liked my job that I had quite a bit, but I didn't have a house or kids or a husband or anything that would really tie me down, and it seemed like it was the time to just get up and go. Going over to Germany didn't stop me in my quest to become Orthodox. I started attending a parish in Munich, and it was a parish that belonged to the Moscow Patriarchate. And I met together with the priest. And I know I talked a little bit about this before as well. And I ended up being baptized on September 14th, 2002. Oh, it was kind of a strange thing. Not so much the baptism, but that it happened really fast. That I was wanting to, and then I got the phone call, and then it just happened. I don't know. It's been a wild and crazy ride. I am still Orthodox. One of my priests threw out the statistic that 50% of the people who convert to Orthodoxy leave it later in their faith journey. And that's pretty sad. Um, for me, a lot of the times have been difficult, but I wouldn't even know where else to go. Churches aren't perfect, people aren't perfect, even clergy isn't perfect, but the theology is sound, and we really need the church. We need that community of believers, the people who are here, the people who have gone before us, the saints, um, the monastics, especially, etc. That night, I could not have imagined where I would be in 20 years. I have always had difficulties answering that question, and some people kind of chalk that up to a lack of ambition. I don't know that it's necessarily a lack of ambition. For me, it was kind of more being open to a lot as opportunities presented themselves. I'm not somebody who wanted to really put my career above everything else because I did know that eventually I wanted to have kids and it would be better to have a mother who's home with them. Um, and in the ensuing 20 years, I have homeschooled kids. Um, I've got kids in school now, one at home. Oh, yeah. And so, since I was baptized into the Moscow Patriarchate. I have been a member of a couple of OCA parishes. I have been a member of a couple Antiochian parishes. I've been part of a Serbian parish for the last 3 years. 2 of my children were baptized into the Greek Church as well, so the GOA. And so I guess you can probably tell that I still consider myself Orthodox more than, say, Russian, because I'm not Russian. I'm not even German, and I speak the language, and I have German heritage, and I spent 4.5 years over there. I'm American. There is no American Orthodox Church, per se. There's Orthodoxy in America, and I am glad to see it kind of get discovered by more people, but you notice people discovering it more when you're part of it rather than if you're outside of it. I remember there was a book by Tom Breen. It's a comedy book called The Messiah, formerly known as Jesus, and he's kind of listing off different Christian denominations, and he gets to the Orthodox and talks about how the Orthodox are like leprechauns, that you hear they exist but you never actually see them. And it's gotten a little bit better since then, and even he acknowledged that in the book. Yeah, it's interesting for me, having grown up Protestant, that when I was growing up, pretty much everybody else who I knew anything about their religion, they were all Protestant, and now pretty much everybody, save for a couple people, are either Orthodox or Catholic. And I don't know how that happened. I mean, I've gotten to know a few more Protestant people in the last couple of years because of a couple of the groups that I've been with, and my kids' school, but it is definitely something that is kind of weird. Let's see. So, what else? Yeah, I mean, one of the things when you come into a church, it's not just coming into the church as far as a set of books or just a set of rituals. you have people in the church, and you have some of it is parishes that are ethnic, some of them are not so ethnic. But also there's a lot of difference between a parish that is 5 years old and a parish that is 100 years old. In a parish that's 5 years old, you still have a lot more of the mentality of building the church. And in a parish that is, say, over 50, but I've been part of a couple that have been over 100 years old, you kind of have a core of people who consider it their church. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes that attitude makes it hard to work with them, because their understanding is, well, it doesn't matter because of the priest, because priests come and go. It doesn't matter because of the other parishioners, because they'll come and go too, for the most part. But sometimes these people make it hard for other people to come in, because everything has to be their way. And you don't see that nearly as much in a newer church. First, because, of course, you don't have the time for them to get entrenched into the church. But also, with a lot of people, especially older people, they don't understand what is appealing about Orthodoxy to somebody who's not ethnically Orthodox. And it was kind of fun when I was living in Germany, because every once in a while somebody would figure out that I wasn't Russian and not even German, and the next question would be like, well, then why are you Orthodox? And it was a little bit of a way to evangelize to the baptized, so to speak. Some people get really upset or annoyed by questions like that, but I never did. It's just, people are different. People take things differently. You have differences in headscarves. At my first parish, because it was part of the Moscow Patriarchate, everybody wore all the women wore headscarves. It was pretty much a requisite, especially if you wanted to take communion. I've been to parishes where most of the women weren't wearing ones. I was at a parish for a while where the headscarves got to be a thing where it felt like it was the fashion parade, and that bothered me a lot. This was many years ago, and I won't say the diocese and I won't say the location, but you had a number of young women there, and they all had their headscarves, and they're all kind of preening with the headscarves. And between me working abroad and spending time there and having a job that sometimes sent me out of the U.S., I had a small collection of nice headscarves, because they are a lot easier to find there than here. And that's changed, especially with online shopping, and now you can get a headscarf of pretty much anything you want. You can design your own headscarf and put it on Redbubble, and Redbubble will print it for you. But back then it was a little bit different. And so, I even had one of these girls, oh, well, next time you travel, make sure you get a headscarf for me, too. And it's like, it's not about the headscarf. And as much as these young women were kind of, and a lot of them were my age, we were in our 20s, and it was just, I stopped wearing a headscarf in church because that annoyed me so much. Um, yeah, I mean, now it's a church that primarily has them. Headscarves with kids are not really always a good combination. But besides that, in my, advanced age, a lot of times I get very, very overheated with a headscarf, and I don't know why. And so, even if I have one, if I'm not going to communion or going up to kiss the cross or whatever, I'll wear it more like a regular scarf because I don't want to pass out while singing. And I know you can get like the little ones that just go around your hair and stuff, and maybe eventually I'll get one of those, but it's not a huge deal in the long run because there's really not a whole lot that is a huge deal. It is about praising and worshiping God and trying to work towards the kingdom, but it's not works, of course. It's also the faith as well, and that synergy, if you will. I know synergy is one of these words that's ridiculously overused in business and even in the church, but when you have the working together of different factions for one purpose, that's pretty much what it is. I've experienced that most churches are pretty okay with kids, even when they're not perfect. As a lot of people have pointed out, a church with no children is a dying church. That is important to remember. And little kids wiggle and they make noises, and you do what you can to kind of keep them from being too disruptive. But they're kids, and if you don't bring them to church, they don't really get in the habit. I mean, maybe as an adult, but it's hard to start with 12 or 13 and say, hey, we're going to church now. It's hard to start at 8 and say, hey, we're going to church now. There are things like the calendars and old calendar, new calendar. I've been in parishes that have used both. You just kind of shift things over as you will. It's not something to base one's faith off of. I think a lot of people come into the church looking for perfection, and it's not just the people, but it's a hard road. And I don't want to knock down anybody who is finding the church and being zealous, because we need a lot of zeal. We need people to say, hey, this is great, this is what you need. But I see a lot online, as far as people who get hung up on just the little things, or they're upset that like somebody like me isn't more into like hard theology or something like that. And the theology is great, but if you are not a theologian, if you are not a monastic, if you don't necessarily have the time to be sitting around with all these theological books all the time, especially if you're a mom. And you've got life to live. If you are a parent, you have kids to take care of, and a lot of what the faith is lived, not just theoretical. Oh yeah. Yeah, I could probably go on this note for quite a while. I've got my little index card to kind of help me along, and I've changed things up a little bit. I am still incredibly grateful for kind of the shared witness, the saints in the cloud of witnesses in my own life. I have met all sorts of amazing people. Part of that was through the online community, which I was a big part of years and years back, because being in a foreign country and being far away from my church, it was my one contact with English-speaking Orthodox people. And online Orthodoxy isn't always great, but it's here, and it's not something to be dismissed either. In my own life, I have really felt kinship with Saint Alexander of Munich, Alexander Schmoral, in his life, and I have met all sorts of amazing people because of following his story and getting to know other people who have done research. I got to go to Russia in 2007 because of this. It wasn't necessarily an Orthodox trip, but Archbishop Mark of Berlin in Germany, and I think the UK as well, from Rocor, was part of that trip. So there was definitely a church angle to it. We visited the church in the big church in Orenburg. We also went to a church, an orphanage, east on the Asian side. And if I remember off the top of my head, it was like Saratesh. I can look that up. But just incredible. Of course I would do it again. As much as there have been difficult times, as much as there has been, trying of my faith and everything, as much as COVID really made me disappointed in a lot of the churches, yeah, I mean, I still think it is the right place, and I still have the sense of I am in the right place, and there's no place else where I could go. This, and part of it is kind of, this is the last stand, but not because it's only the last stand, it's because it's the right place. I hope this has been interesting or useful to somebody out there. It's hard to get thoughts on 20 years kind of put together into something really cohesive, because you live each day individually. A lot of time passes, but I hope for somebody else who may be coming across this that you either look into Orthodoxy or keep going with it, because we need it. We need Christ. We need His church. And that is the most important thing in this crazy life right now. Thank you. Take care. and God bless.